Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse here, aka BGFH, and I am back for another Access Unlocked video. And it's really funny because we were actually talking about doing a sort of adventure game-esque video no more than a couple of days ago. And then earlier today, via Twitter, Riley had seen a post, and I saw it at work earlier, about somebody asking specifically about how to make adventure games like Life is Strange, which is what we're looking at here, or The Walking Dead, those types of games. How do you make them more accessible? What is missing in these types of games to make them more blind accessible? Well, we're going to explore Life is Strange a little bit. We're looking at Life is Strange 2, actually, the beginning of it here. We've just gotten through the intro bit here. We're looking around the house, looking for party supplies. So let's just get right into it. Well, actually, first, before we get into the gameplay again, blind accessible menu and dialogue and tutorial narration, dialogue options, anything like that. Text-to-speech can be a really, really helpful thing. Mainstream games are already doing it. AAA games, indie games, you got things like Skullgirls. If you want to see a good example, Skullgirls is a PC, the PC version of it anyway, has full screen reader support natively now. You can run basically, your typical JAWS or NVDA, that kind of a thing. And anything that is text, including menus and move lists and dialogue and whatever, will be spoken aloud. And then you have things like Eagle Island. You have things like Sequence Storm. These are mainstream games that all have pretty much full narration, full text-to-speech for all of their menus. Sequence Storm goes above and beyond. In addition to menus and dialogues and options, the text dialogue for the story mode even has... they went one step further in not just saying what's on or what is actually written on the screen, but kind of like a described video almost, like, oh, the screen shows it shows a computer screen with someone hunched over, or the screen says blah blah blah, and that really took me by surprise. So they went above and beyond. You want to see a few good examples of really comprehensive text-to-speech: Sequence Storm, Eagle Island, Skullgirls PC version. That one in particular, you have to run a screen reader in addition to Skullgirls to make it work, but a couple great examples. I've covered these games on the channel in various forms, so you can check those out. But now we can get into the game here. So we are in the living room by the kitchen island here. We just kind of finished our little judge and jury thing over here. So honestly, the first thing that really has to be made accessible is navigating the environment. Where are we? What types of things are in the environment? And Life is Strange is actually a really, really good example, because, even other adventure games like The Walking Dead, they don't have quite as many things you can just kind of walk up and examine. Like some adventure games do, some don't. But I can walk around this room here and, okay, I'm near something. I can hit Y.
That's right. Que pendejo.
So I read this letter. Now, unfortunately, he comments on the letter, but I don't have any way to read what it says if I were totally blind. So having, I can hit A and I can do an actual text overlay. So if you're low vision, you can kind of see that a little bit better. And the text is reasonably big here. Again, having dynamic or adjustable font size. Even some people would prefer larger text than this. So, even if it seems like it's comically big or, really, really big for you, other people may find it still helpful to have larger text. I know many games right now are struggling a lot with in-game and overall text being super tiny. Even fully sighted people are complaining about that. But you could have, if this was from a character in the game, or you could have Daniel reading it in a, you could have the main character read it in kind of like an echoey voice, like where he's not speaking it, but he's saying it, sort of like he does when he voices his thoughts. It would be a little bit more lines of dialogue, but it would add both to the immersion and the accessibility. Let's go over to the living room here. And we can walk over to... Okay, so there's another interactable thing we can hit Y on.
What if Jen came over? We can build a fire and... Dude, stop.
So, the other thing is, there needs to be some sort of navigational cue. Right now, I just walk around, and then when I see that little line come up and go, oh, I can hit Y. Sometimes if I can interact with something, there'll be an A button, or there'll be a B button, or an X button, indicating, because I'm playing this on the PC with the Xbox One controller. So again, this one
I need to take care of that party list.
I can hit Y on the TV.
I could just stay home and binge Top Gear with Dad and Daniel, but not tonight.
Right. But you see the other ones are grayed out, like I can't hit A, I can't hit X or Y, or X or B. So one way that you could do both the interaction here and dialogue when we get into that is, instead of hitting X or Y, A or B, maybe I could hit a general interact button, in this accessible mode or something. I could hit A to interact, and then it would bring up a thing where I could move left, right, up or down, and it would read me, interact or use or push or, whatever secondary action typically would be assigned to X or B. That way I would know which options are available. But I would also need to know, some audible cue that I'm walking towards something, and there are objects. There are other games where, like, you can toggle on like an exploration mode where I can stop and I can hit a button. I can toggle in kind of like this mode that'll tell me, oh, there are, as I pan, let's say I pan my right stick around, as I was doing that, I might hear, maybe I would hear in text-to-speech or something, maybe I would hear TV or stereo or whatever it happened to be. Or I might even just hear either a sound
move your
or...
ass. Get those party supplies on the list.
I could move around. I could hear audio cues, either like beeps or something, just to tell me that something is in that direction. But the main thing is the person has to know that there's something to interact with. So we walk over here. Can we do anything with these pictures on the wall? It doesn't look like it. So we've got a door here.
Do not enter. Ever. Trust me, Dad, I won't.
That's Dad's room. So we can walk around. And you almost need either some text-to-speech or something to indicate what the item is before you interact with it, because in a game like this, there might be, I could visually look at something on the counter, and depending on which thing I picked up, that might actually trigger a plot point. And if I grab something that would give me a bad result versus a good result, I'm trying to think of an example, but like, if I took something that I wasn't supposed to, or I knew that the other person wanted one of the items, and so I would take the other one, or I would take it first, instead of them. We got another
What
interactable
the?
here.
Is Dad baking something?
I think we got something up here. I'm looking for something that's actually interactable. Okay, here we go. So this one, it says A. You could even, even if you didn't have the multiple buttons, you could even have a different sound effect for yes, you can interact, or yes, you can use it, or you can examine it or use it. Just is this a usable item? Is it an examinable item? Can you do both? Let's check in the cupboard here. All right, so now we have some choices here, different snacks that we could grab.
No way. Dad will kill me if I take his precious candy.
Huh?
Dad is like a big kid. He gets so hyped for Halloween.
It's because Halloween rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo, cookies.
Works for me.
You're coming with me.
So again, I would need to know. In this case, I could hit Y and
Cross
know
that
what
off
that
the
item
list.
is before
Food
I
down,
grab it. So
drinks to go.
if I know that I have, if I see an item and I know I can hit Y to examine or A to do it, I could always examine it first before I choose to interact with it and trigger some sort of event. All right, so let's open up the refrigerator here. And we can grab...
Don't forget the non-booze.
I could do that, or...
Dad doesn't drink that much. Does he keep track?
Probably. We'll grab some non-booze, because, why not?
Don't forget the non-booze. This will work. I don't want to get wasted in front of Jen.
Okay. No, fair enough. So, there are, again, many different attempts, many different strategies that other audio games have used for navigation. There's been audio beacons. There has been, a lot of games will have compasses in them telling you what cardinal directions you're going. They may have some sort of a waypoint marker, like, oh, my objective is to find drinks, or my objective is to go to go inspect this gas station. So, I could kind of turn on and off these waypoints, and I could bring up a list of waypoints and say, oh, which objective do I want to find? Do I want to find the gas station? Do I want to find, or in this case, do I want to find the food, the drink, the blanket, whatever, or just have a general thing to say, hey, these are the objectives. You just want to explore and find them yourself, and you can just go to whatever objective or beacon you wanted. They've also had things where I'm in an open area, but then I'll hear some wind or some noise to indicate that, hey, there's an open space to my right, this little hallway here. I could go this way, and then I would hear it off to the right. If you're in an open area, maybe the footsteps would sound a little bit different. Maybe I've heard some games where it wouldn't make sense in here particularly, but if I was in a big old open room in some environment, maybe the floor would echo a little bit. My footsteps might echo a little bit to say, hey, you're in a big open area here. The sound is going to reverberate around. And then when you get into a more narrow hallway, you kind of can tell because the sound gets a little bit more muffled or a little bit more, subdued a little bit. And a lot of times,
I'm broke, so I better find some cash for tonight.
Yeah. You can tell by what's, you can also navigate by, okay, we've got some wood here in the kitchen, we've got some carpet over here. So you can kind of, just as you're walking around your own house in real life, like, oh, I know I'm walking on my carpet, I know I'm walking on the linoleum in the kitchen, or whatever it is, you can kind of learn an area that way. So there's all kinds of navigational things. But honestly, like, just being able to, the main thing is to find your objectives and not spend your time endlessly frustrated, wandering around, because, a lot of your audio games are kind of more straightforward. They're flat surfaces. The rooms themselves typically aren't very complex. But in a game like this, yeah, I've got some open areas here, but if I go back to the living room, okay, we've got our island here that we got to go around. We got our bar stools. We go to the living room, we've got, okay, we can go in between these recliners. I can go in between the coffee table and the couch. Okay, I can't go, the couch is stuck here, so I can't get around that way. But I can go around in front of the TV. I can go rack behind the L couch here. So finding a way so that somebody knows that they're, either butting up against or rubbing against like an object or a wall. So it's like, oh, you can't, if I can just, a lot of games he'll just keep continuing walking. In this case, he just stands there. But some games you'll just be walking forward and he'll do the walking animation, but he won't go anywhere. So the blind person will think, well, I hear footsteps, he's obviously moving, when he actually really isn't. So it's things like that to consider. You want to be able to find your objective, know that there are interactable things in the environment. Typically a blind person in an audio game would center that. So if I heard something off to the right or off to the left, I would
Time to go downstairs and hit Dad up.
Move my analog stick or something. Once it's centered in my soundscape, because I'll more than likely be playing this with headphones. You center it in your view, and then, oh, okay, or your audioscape, whatever you want to call it, and then you would know. Like, oh, okay, I'm near the item, it's loud. As you're further away, it's quiet. As it gets loud, it's in the center of your view. Boom, that you can grab it. So there's things like that. A lot of games might use binaural audio, which adds another layer of kind of a virtual surround instead of just being straight up stereo. So using binaural audio for greater audio separation. There's been a few iOS games that have done that in the past. You can look up just binaural audio demos on YouTube. Look those up and listen with headphones, and you'll hear all kinds of interesting demonstrations and stuff. So you have, if you have an engine that will support that, that's another really good way to add a little bit more audio depth so people can find what you're looking for. Let's go. We're going to wrap this up here pretty soon, but I do want to look at dialogue. Navigation is, of course, the main thing that we need to look at, because getting around the environment, knowing where things are, knowing what's interactable, what I can look at, what I can interact with, finding some sort of way to do that. Let's go. I know this is my brother's room here, so we'll talk to... I thought it would...
Dude, come on, open up.
Why?
Because.
Okay.
What are you doing in there, Dr. Frankenstein?
You gave my Choco Crisp to Dad.
So what? He gave it back. Dude, you're so spoiled. What's with the sisters?
You'll see, but not now. So don't come in.
So now the choices here, I can hit X or B. Now, I would have to look at these, but a blind player wouldn't just be able to hit X or B because they wouldn't know what those choices are. So again, when I was talking about having interactions or something, you could do kind of like what the Mass Effect series did, but also include text-to-speech over that, or even have the character I just went stupid. What is his name?
Sean?
Sean, yeah. So, I could have, like, if I moved the analog stick left, Sean would say the option on the left. So, he would say, okay then. And if I moved it to the right, he would say the other option. And Mass Effect would kind of work that because they had this dialogue wheel where you would move up, down, left, and right. Usually positive choices were up, negative choices were down, and then more side to side were kind of your neutral options, or just let's gather some more information, or toward the left side was more. But you could do it however you wanted, or you could just do a simple up and down vertical list that I could arrow through. Think of the Elder Scrolls games, Fallout, Fallout 3 and 4, The Outer Worlds. I've been playing that recently. And those you can just up and down arrow, but again, before you hit A to select that choice, you would want to have either text to speech, or if in this case your main character, like Sean, has actual dialogue, so you might be able to use the voice actor. Or if you're in a game like Oblivion or Skyrim, where you have a silent protagonist, you might use text to speech because your main character does not actually ever talk. So, you just want to be able to give the character, or you want to give the player more time or the ability to read that dialogue. Now, there's also, it happens in this game and it happens for sure in The Walking Dead. There might either have to be an option in the options menu, maybe under accessibility or something, to where the player can either choose to set a longer duration for the timed dialogue options. Like if because in Walking Dead you have a whole bunch of options. It'll be like, you got to answer this in 5 seconds. You got to make this choice. Otherwise this person lives and this one dies, or something good or bad happens. But if you are you have to hear each option before you can do it, you might need an extra, maybe having double the time, or even just turning off the time sensitive, the time sensitive dialogue options. But, even to force a blind player to still have a time limit, I would say some extended time would be a little bit necessary, just so they can, arrow through, or however it is you choose to let them navigate, whether it's more like this or a Mass Effect dialogue wheel, or just straight up and down options like in Fallout or Elder Scrolls, that kind of a thing. They would need that extra time to be able to hear all of the dialogue options. So that could be another accessibility feature to give that more time. So let's finish this conversation.
Okay, fine. Don't tell me. After all, I'm only your big brother, who looks after you and takes care of you.
Stop it. All I can say is, watch out for my costume in 3 days. This Halloween is gonna be awesome. Are you going to the party tonight at Eric's house? Will Lila be there?
Yes, and no. You can't go. Teenagers only.
I bet Lila would let me go. She's way nicer to me than you. Did she ask about me?
Oh, what should we say?
Yes, she wants to marry you.
Shut up! I don't even care if I can't go. Because I have secret stuff to do. Alone.
Of course you do. Daniel's always up to something.
So there is,
Wonder what's next.
There is a dialogue option. Let's go into Daniel's room, or let's go into Sean's room really fast. So in this game, especially, you have you're interacting with the computer sometimes. So let's go look at the computer. What?
Sorry, Lila. I'm just not a selfies kind of guy.
So again, he gives a comment on what you're looking at, but again, a blind user would not have any way to read what looks to be some sort of a web page or social media post. We got some pictures, we got some stuff. So Again, if you have text-to-speech to navigate the menus and stuff in the beginning, even if there were some sort of extra button when you're here, you could hit an extra button to say, hey, either read me what's on this screen, or, just like you would do for like a described video for a TV show or movie, or an alt tag on an image for the web. Just having some sort of a thing where I can hit an extra button and say, oh, this is what this image shows. It's a computer screen of, these images, and there's a cartoon that says whatever, or that shows this. Something to where the blind player would actually get the joke or whatever too.
Don't be a stalker, Sean.
So, right, we got, again, we got some more pictures. We've got, again, looks like another social media thing.
Man, this is taking forever. Do they want me to pay for it?
Right, so pay for what? What are we doing?
Oh my God. The internet was a mistake.
So again, having something that would at least tell the blind player whether it's does it automatically or whether you could hit a button and initiate it. Like maybe I could hit Y again, and then it would give me the description of what's on this particular page. So that is, again, things in the environment. Same thing if I walked up to a poster or a picture, like if I walk up to here. Whoops.
This was such a cool day. Can't wait to go back out there with the crew.
So, right, okay, we've got, people in this picture. Well, what is it? Or what are, who are they? What do they do? Even just a sentence or two description of like, oh, 3 people that are, whatever, part of his whatever group or whatever it happens to be. So, because in Life is Strange 1,
by a crazy old dude.
There was a puzzle
There
was a puzzle that I actually had trouble with in, I want to say it was like episode 4, where you were putting a bunch of pictures and items on this bulletin board, and you were trying to find, I don't remember what it was. You were trying, there was a license plate, I can't even remember what it was you were trying to accomplish, but there was like this bulletin board puzzle. But everything was so visual, and you had to look for certain signs and visual signs in each one of these items, and some of them had nothing to do with the puzzle that you were looking at. Some of them did. And I got a couple of them on my own fairly easily, but some of them were actually kind of harder to see, so even with some vision myself, I had to either just, brute force trial and error, or I had to go look up, okay, click on this thing, and this thing. That's the answer to your puzzle. So if you're, conveying a puzzle like this, like say you had a bunch of items on this bulletin board here like he's got, and I had to use them for a puzzle, you're going to need those extra descriptions so that you can piece together, oh, okay, well maybe this fits with this. I see the same car in this picture and that picture, or whatever it is, being able to identify certain things like that. I remember that certain puzzle specifically in Life is Strange 1. So, a lot of these are slower paced games for the most part, especially Life is Strange 2. There are some quick time events. You would have to know which button to either hold or mash. You want to have the option to either hold or mash the button because, again, accessibility. Some people aren't able to repeatedly mash the A button or X button or whatever. But again, a blind player is not going to know until unless you tell them, A or B or left or up, whatever it happens to be. I'm a little worried about Shenmue 3 when it comes out because they love their quick times. They kind of made it popular, which I love Shenmue, but I probably could have done without some of those because now it's kind of an industry staple, and I'm not sure how fond of those QTEs I am. So those are some ideas. Again, I can't really give a definitive answer to every little aspect of how to make a game accessible. I can just give you some ideas. Main thing for a game like this, navigation, complex environments, find objectives, know where people are, know where know whether you can interact with or examine an object or person. especially in bigger environments, having maybe some sort of a waypoint to go like, hey, maybe go here, or here are some possible objectives you may want to, use your soundscape and explore and try to find. There's a Kickstarter that's on at the time of I'm recording this, and then I've done a kind of a sneak peek, kind of a preview for their tech demo. Pitch Black, a Dusklight story. They did this interactive tech demo where you're navigating this kind of futuristic, like market area. And just by walking around, you can tell, oh, here's where your vendors are. Here's the bar, because you hear this crazy drunk guy out front of it. You hear the simulator thing that they're trying to get you to go to. There, you hear this arcade thing. You hear somebody playing a guitar. Just by walking around and using really good binaural audio. They don't have really hardly any navigation in that demo. They do have some beacons that you can set down so you can set your own waypoints, like up to 5. But I could pretty much just listen to the environment and go, oh, okay, well, this vendor was next to this one, and then the guitar guy was over here, and I know this other thing was next to the simulator. The simulator and the arcade were pretty close together, so something like that. I would definitely recommend checking out the PC Accessible Game Spotlight videos and the iOS Accessible Spotlight videos, Accessible Game Spotlight videos. There are a lot of videos for games that have had like overhead or third or first person navigation. Swamp, A Hero's Call, Manamon, The Blind Legend, Pitch Black demo, all kinds of stuff in there. So check those out. If you are a developer working on something like Life is Strange, maybe you want to add accessibility into it, or you're starting a new game project and you want to... It's much, much easier to add this stuff in from the beginning. So think about, if you want blind people to play your game, you want more people to enjoy your game, think about, okay, walk around an environment and then think about, what would I do? Okay, your game, that, okay, in this room I have to find food, I have to find money, I have to find a blanket. Okay, then what do I need? How might I do that without looking? Don't look at the screen, turn your screen off, or blindfold yourself, whatever. And to see, but definitely, ask the other thing is to include people with disabilities. If you want to make it more blind and low vision accessible, definitely there are a bunch of advocates out there. There are a bunch of people who are willing to test, like myself, like Riley, like several others here that are doing this. I am legally blind, low vision. Riley is basically light perception blind, so can't really see any actual in-game stuff, just basically some light. So, we can definitely help test for blind and low vision accessibility. If you are a developer and are looking to do that, let us know. You can, direct message or follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. You can leave a comment in the video below, in the description, in the comments. However you want to get a hold of us, just let us know. And we'll be glad to work with you. People, especially with accessibility starting to take off in mainstream games, AAA, indie games, it's exciting, but at the same time, it's like, oh, there's a couple here and there, but there's so many more that we want to play. There's so many more that people, especially who are totally blind, can't play. So, work with people in the disability community, work with people who are, advocating for accessibility, who are, where we're consulting, we're willing and able to test or answer any questions. Let us know. Happy to help out how we can. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, mixer.com/BGFH, which I did actually do a Mixer stream of this particular episode, almost all of it. So you can kind of see, my running commentary of what I was thinking if I had any, because there are a couple points throughout this Life is Strange 2 where I would overlook some stupid little object that blended in, or there's a bunch of objects next to each other and I didn't pan just to the right way to make the icon appear, and I didn't notice it or something like that. So, there are a few things that kind of slowed me down on occasion, but I did stream it there, so you can find that archive on youtube.com/illegally cited. And for all of my other projects and information, you can go to illegallycited.com. So hope you guys found the video helpful. Hope this gives you guys some ideas. If you're a developer and want to contact us, definitely let us know. And again, I just thought it was cool that somebody actually, we were literally talking about doing this video like probably 2-3 days ago. And then saw something on Twitter and somebody was like, hey, people who are playing Life is Strange or The Walking Dead or other similar types of adventure games, what would you do? What is missing? What kind of accessibility features do you most need to get around? So hopefully this helped out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Later.